My name is Julian, I'm 41, and I've spent most of my adult life doing two things: building my business from the ground up and trying, really trying, to keep my family from falling apart. I was the oldest of three, the so-called golden child, when I was younger, not because I was particularly brilliant or charming, but because I did what my parents expected. I got good grades, stayed out of trouble, and eventually became the one everyone leaned on. After college, I started a logistics company with nothing but a borrowed laptop and a second-hand car. Fast forward 20 years, and that company is now worth millions. I don't say that to brag, just to set the stage. Because despite everything I achieved, I never stopped trying to keep everyone afloat. And maybe that was my mistake. My parents never made much. My dad worked at a factory until it shut down, and my mom cleaned houses on and off when her back allowed. My younger sister, Paige, bounced from job to job, had 3 kids with 2 different dads, and somehow always managed to land on her feet, usually by falling onto mine. And I kept helping. When the roof at my parents' house started leaking, I paid for it. When Paige got evicted, I fronted her deposit. When my niece needed braces, I swiped my card before she even asked. I told myself it was the right thing to do, that family sticks together. But over the years, that line started to blur, until the day I walked into that house and everything snapped. It was a rainy Saturday in late March, the kind of day you just want to spend curled up on the couch. My daughter, Lily, she's 13, had asked to visit her grandparents. She loves them, or at least she used to. I dropped her off around noon, told her I'd be back in a couple hours, and headed to a nearby cafe to get some work done. I figured they'd be happy to see her, maybe bake something together, watch one of those black and white movies my mom likes. But when I came back earlier than planned, I didn't even make it past the entryway before I heard shouting. Not the usual back and forth bickering my parents do, but sharp, biting anger, directed at Lily. "Wash the dishes properly, you useless girl," my mom snapped. Her voice was so full of venom I stopped cold. I stood in the hallway, my hand on the doorframe, listening. My heart was racing. "I'm sorry, Grandma. I didn't mean to," Lily stammered, her voice trembling. "You didn't mean to leave grease all over the plates? Are you that lazy or just dumb?" Then came the laughter. Paige's kids. I recognized the cackling tone of her middle child, Mason. "Guess rich girls don't know how to scrub a plate," he snorted. My blood ran cold. I stepped into the kitchen and found Lily standing at the sink, red-eyed, with suds on her hands. My mother towered over her, arms crossed. Paige was on the couch, scrolling through her phone like this was just another afternoon. Her youngest was throwing popcorn at the TV. Nobody noticed me at first. "Lily," I said, calm but loud. She turned around fast, startled. The relief in her eyes hit me like a punch. "Dad, what's going on here?" I asked quietly. My mother straightened up. She's been disrespectful all day. Couldn't even do the dishes right. I'm teaching her some responsibility. I glanced at the sink. A couple of plates, barely anything. My daughter hadn't even been here 2 hours. "She's a child," I said. My voice was low, but I could feel the heat building in my chest. "Well, maybe if you didn't spoil her so much," my mom began, but I held up a hand. "No," I said firmly. "You don't speak to her like that. Ever." Paige looked up, finally. "Oh, please, Julian." She was acting like a princess. "I don't know what you're so upset about. Mason was just joking." "Joking?" I turned to Mason, who now suddenly looked like he wanted to disappear into the couch. "Were you laughing at her?" He shrugged. She was crying over dishes. Like a baby. And then I saw it clearly. This wasn't a one-off. This had been brewing for years. The entitlement, the way my family treated me like an ATM, and now my daughter was their next target. They couldn't get enough out of me anymore, so they were trying to humble her. Break her. Bring her down to their level. "I want you to go to the car, Lily," I said. "But now, sweetheart." She nodded and slipped past me, brushing her sleeve across her face. As soon as I heard the front door close, I turned back to my parents and sister. "You don't speak to my daughter again," I said. "You don't see her. You don't ask about her. You don't joke at her expense. You're done." My father, who'd been half dozing in the armchair, grumbled, "Don't overreact. She needs to toughen up." I looked at him and then at my mother. "You live in this house because of me. Every repair, every utility, every cent of mortgage still owed is paid by me. You remember that." My mom scoffed. "So what? We raised you." I nodded slowly. "And I paid you back 10 times over. But this is where it ends." I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just walked out, took Lily home, made her hot cocoa, and sat with her until she fell asleep on the couch watching cartoons. Then I poured myself a drink and started making phone calls. First the bank, then the lawyer, then the property management firm I'd hired 2 years ago to handle the paperwork and taxes on my parents' house because I couldn't trust them to keep things in order. It wasn't hard to unwind the support systems I'd put in place. I'd kept receipts. I knew exactly how to make the gears stop turning. But what none of them realized was how much they depended on those gears, and how fast the machinery would grind to a halt once I stepped away. And that was just the beginning. The next week was quiet, eerily so. I didn't return any calls, didn't respond to the passive-aggressive text from Paige asking why Mom was freaking out about something to do with the mortgage. I didn't even open the voicemail from my father, though I saw it in my notifications. I needed space. For the first time in years, I let myself feel the weight of everything I'd carried. Every holiday meal I paid for. Every electric bill I covered because the system messed up again. Every late-night transfer to keep their water running. It wasn't generosity anymore. It was servitude wrapped in guilt. The first sign of real panic came 10 days later. I was in my office reviewing contracts when my receptionist buzzed through. "Julian, there's someone here asking for you. Says it's urgent." A woman named Paige. I closed my laptop and sighed. "Send her in." She stormed into the room before the door had even finished opening. Her hair was a mess, face flushed red, eyes wide. "What did you do?" she snapped. I didn't get up from my desk. I just tilted my head calm. "Good to see you too, Paige. They got a notice from the bank. Mom called me screaming. Foreclosure? Are you seriously doing this? You're letting them lose the house." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the house I've been paying for the last 11 years? They didn't know that, didn't they?" I asked, keeping my tone measured. "Who did they think was paying? Santa?" Paige's face scrunched up. "That's not the point. You can't just walk away and let your own parents become homeless." I stood up slowly, walked around my desk, and stopped just in front of her. "Let me ask you something, Paige. If someone screamed in your child's face and called her useless, if they stood by while their grandchild was mocked and humiliated, would you invite them to stay in your home afterward?" She hesitated. "No," I said for her. "Because that's what happened to Lily." And no one said a word. "Not you, not Mom, not Dad. You just let it happen." "They didn't mean it," she muttered. "Oh, they meant every word." And so did Mason, who I assume learned that kind of cruelty from somewhere. Her jaw clenched. "So this is revenge? You're punishing all of us because your kid got her feelings hurt." My voice was quiet. "This is boundaries. Something our family has never had. I should have drawn the line years ago." She was silent for a moment, eyes darting around like she was looking for the right angle. Then her expression changed. Less anger, more panic. "You can't let this happen," she said, her voice suddenly soft. "They're old, Julian. They don't have anywhere to go. What if Dad gets sick again? Then you and your kids can finally step up," I replied. "Because I'm done being the only one who sacrifices anything." Paige opened her mouth like she was going to argue, but then closed it. She turned and stormed out without another word. I sat back down, ran a hand over my face, and exhaled. I felt guilt. Of course I did. I'm not made of stone. These were the people who raised me. But somewhere along the way, they stopped seeing me as family and started seeing me as infrastructure. As long as I paid, I was good. The moment I expected respect, I became difficult. 2 weeks later, the real fallout began. My mom called me, finally. I didn't answer. I let it ring. She left a voicemail, her voice quivering. "Julian, we didn't know you were serious. Please, we can't lose the house. We didn't mean what we said to Lily. It was just a bad day. Call me back." I didn't. I listened to it once, then deleted it. Lily noticed something was different. She didn't know the details, but she could tell something had shifted. One evening she asked me, "Dad, are we still going to Grandma and Grandpa's for Easter?" I looked at her gently. "Not this year, sweetheart. We're starting some new traditions." She nodded, curling closer into me on the couch. "Good. I don't like how they talk to you." That hit me harder than anything else had. She'd seen it all along. Maybe not the words, but the energy. Kids always do. And now that I saw it through her eyes, I couldn't unsee it. The final breaking point came just after the 30-day notice hit. I knew because I got a call from the property manager. He said my parents had tried to plead with the bank directly, but without any record of income or ability to refinance. The house was going to auction. Paige tried to stall it, but her credit was a mess, and even her boyfriend had bailed after realizing how deep in the red her finances were. And me? I didn't lift a finger. The day before the bank was scheduled to take possession, I got one last text from my mom. It just said, "Please don't let us lose everything." I stared at it for a long time. Then I looked over at Lily, who was setting the table, humming to herself. And I knew, this time, I wasn't going to save them. I didn't respond to her message. For years, I would have. I would have driven over with a checkbook and 1,000 reasons why they didn't mean it. And they're still your parents. But not anymore. The words echoed in my head. "You useless girl." I kept seeing Lily's face, flushed red, trying not to cry while my mother loomed over her like she wasn't even family, like she was some servant. That wasn't a slip of the tongue. That was who they really were when they thought I wasn't looking. And maybe it had always been. A week later, I drove past the house, not to gloat, just to see. It was a chilly Monday afternoon. Spring hadn't quite warmed up yet, and the sky was this heavy gray, like the weather couldn't decide if it wanted to rain or just stay cold. The driveway was empty. The curtains were drawn, and taped to the front door was the bank's notice. Bold black print, weather warped at the corners. I parked across the street, engine idling. Just stared. That house had been in our family for nearly 30 years. I remembered summers in that backyard, barbecues with paper plates and off-key music. I remembered sitting at that front step with skinned knees. But now, it looked smaller, sadder, hollow. And maybe that's how it had felt for a long time. It just took this for me to finally see it. Paige's minivan pulled up a few minutes later. I recognized it right away, same dent in the back bumper she'd never fixed. She stepped out first, wrapped in a thick coat, followed by her kids. Mason was dragging his feet, sulking. The youngest, Avery, was holding a bag of cereal and spilling it without noticing. Paige kept looking around like she expected someone to pop out and say it was all a joke. But no one did. She marched up to the door, read the notice, and then just stood there. I watched her shoulders tense. Mason said something, probably sarcastic, and she turned and snapped at him. The whole scene unfolded like a movie I'd seen too many times. Anger, denial, deflection. Eventually, Paige pulled out her phone and started pacing. I knew exactly who she was calling. I let it ring. By the 5th attempt, my phone buzzed so much I switched it off. I didn't need to hear her panic, or her excuses, or her promises that this time things would be different. I already knew the script by heart. The next few days were quiet again. It was strange, almost peaceful. No calls, no drama, no guilt-tripping group texts. Lily started to brighten up. She laughed more. Her posture changed, even her voice. It was like she was growing taller just from not being pushed down all the time. One night, we were eating dinner, just the two of us, spaghetti and garlic bread, when she looked up from her plate and said, "Dad, are we still family with them?" I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. "What do you mean?" I asked, careful. "I mean, do you stop being family if someone's really mean to you all the time?" I set my fork down and leaned in. Family's supposed to make you feel safe, loved. They don't always have to agree with you or say nice things all the time, but they should never make you feel small. She nodded, thinking, "So, they're not really our family anymore." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "They'll always be part of where we came from, but we get to choose what kind of family we build now." She smiled faintly. "Good. I like ours better." I went to bed that night with a lump in my throat. Proud of her, angry at them. A strange mix that sat in my chest like a rock. But things weren't over yet. The next morning, I woke to a knock at my front door. When I opened it, I found my mother standing there. Hair disheveled, jacket too thin for the weather. Her eyes swollen like she hadn't slept in days. She didn't say anything for a long moment. Just stood there, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. "Julian," she said finally, "please, just talk to me." I didn't answer. Not yet. She glanced past me, into the house. "I miss Lily." I stepped outside and pulled the door closed behind me. "You miss her?" I asked. "Or do you miss the house? The bills paid on time? The safety net you used to have?" Her mouth opened, then shut again. No words. I folded my arms. "Because Lily hasn't missed you. Not once. She's been laughing again, sleeping peacefully, doing her homework without tears. Tears welled in her eyes. We didn't mean it. We were just frustrated. You didn't mean to humiliate her? To let Mason laugh while you berated her? She needed to learn. She needed to be treated like a granddaughter, not a punching bag." She flinched at that. I sighed, the cold biting through my sleeves. "I didn't do this to punish you. I did it to protect her. And maybe myself." I lost everything, she whispered. Your father blames me. Paige won't even take us in. I stared at her, and for a brief, painful second, I felt it, that old pull, the urge to make things right. But then I remembered Lily's face at the sink, her hands red from the hot water, the trembling in her voice. And I knew, this wasn't the time to forgive. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I looked at my mother standing there, shivering on my doorstep, tears threatening to spill. For a moment, I saw her not as the woman who humiliated my daughter, but as the woman who used to read me bedtime stories, who packed my school lunches even when money was tight, who stayed up during storms just in case I was scared. And for that brief moment, a younger version of me stirred. The boy who wanted nothing more than to make his parents proud, to keep his family safe, to fix everything with just a little more effort. But I wasn't that boy anymore. I was a father now, and that changed everything. You need to leave, I said quietly. My mother's face contorted like she didn't quite understand what she'd heard. Julian, please, just let me explain. Let me see Lily. She's my granddaughter. I shook my head. She's the girl you called useless. The one you yelled at like she was a burden in your house. That's not love, Mom. That's control. You didn't want to see her. You wanted to shape her into something small and quiet and obedient, just like you did with me. She stepped closer. That's not true. We raised you. No, I interrupted. You raised me to feel like I owed you everything. And I've paid that debt tenfold. But now you want to be part of my life again? Part of Lily's? You need to understand something. I took a breath, steadying my voice. I don't owe you anymore. And Lily doesn't owe you a single thing. She wiped her nose with the sleeve of her coat. So that's it. You're just cutting us off? We're your family. I looked at her for a long moment, then said, family doesn't survive on blood alone. It survives on love, respect, and decency. You taught me how to survive, but I had to teach myself how to live. Her shoulders sagged, like the last of the strength holding her up had given out. She turned without another word and walked down the steps, her pace slow, dragging like every footstep weighed more than the last. I watched her disappear down the street, not looking back. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel victorious. I felt free, and that, more than anything, mattered. Over the next few weeks, the fallout rippled through the rest of the family. Paige texted once, just once, to say that I'd ruined everything and that I had no right to play God. I didn't respond, not out of cruelty, but because there was no point. I had finally accepted something it had taken me 4 decades to understand. You can't heal people who don't want to stop hurting you. The house went up for auction 2 months later. I didn't go. I thought about it, maybe for closure. But instead, I spent that day at a park with Lily. We flew a kite, got ice cream, and lay on the grass watching clouds roll across the sky. She didn't bring them up once. Later that week, I was packing away some old boxes in the garage when I came across a small photo album. It was the kind my mom used to make every year when I was a kid. Pages of birthday parties, Christmas mornings, summer trips to the lake, with everyone smiling like life was perfect. I sat on an overturned paint bucket and flipped through it. There was a photo of me and Paige in the snow, both of us red-nosed and laughing. Another of my dad teaching me to ride a bike. One of my mom holding me as a toddler, her face lit with joy. The past is a tricky thing. It can feel like a warm blanket or a cold chain. That photo album, it was both. I didn't throw it away, but I didn't bring it back into the house either. I slid it back into the box, taped it shut, and wrote a label on the front in thick black marker, for later, if needed. And I left it there. Time moved on, as it always does. Lily turned 14. I surprised her with a weekend trip to the mountains, just the two of us. We talked about school, about how she wanted to learn guitar, about a boy in her class who made her laugh, but was definitely not a boyfriend. She made sure to clarify. She didn't ask about my parents once. A year passed, then 2, and then one day, I got a letter. A real letter, not an email or text. It had no return address, just my name and street scribbled in barely legible cursive. I knew the handwriting. I opened it slowly. It was from my dad. The message was short, barely 4 lines. Julian, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but your mother is in a home now. Early stages of dementia. She asks for you and Lily sometimes, though I don't think she remembers what happened. I've lost a lot. I'm not writing for pity. Just wanted you to know. Dad. I stared at the letter, numb. I reread it twice. My dad was never a man of many words, and in those 4 lines, I could feel, not regret exactly, but something close. Like someone standing at the edge of a cliff, staring down, wondering how they got there. I didn't write back. I didn't visit, but I did sit down with Lily that night and tell her the truth. Not everything, just enough. She listened quietly, never interrupting. At the end, she asked, "Do you think they're sorry?" I thought about it. I think they're sad, and I think they regret losing us. Whether that's the same as being sorry, I'm not sure. She nodded, accepting it. Then she said something I'll never forget. Maybe being sorry isn't enough. Maybe people have to change too. I looked at her, this young girl who somehow carried the wisdom I had taken a lifetime to earn, and I smiled. "You're right," I said. "Sorry without change is just a word." We hugged, and that hug said everything that needed saying. Years went by. Lily graduated high school with honors. I sat front row, cheering louder than any other parent in the auditorium. When she crossed the stage, I could see her scanning the crowd, and when she found me, she grinned and gave me the smallest nod, like it was our moment, not just hers. I never reconnected with my parents after that. My mother passed away in the care facility 2 years later. Quietly, alone. I didn't go to the funeral. Neither did Lily. My father? He moved in with Paige, from what I heard. I never followed up. People might read this and think I'm cold, that I let bitterness swallow the love that should have bound our family together. But that's not it at all. I didn't choose vengeance. I chose peace. And peace sometimes requires letting go of those who refuse to stop hurting you, no matter what title they hold. You can't build a future while dragging the ruins of the past behind you. I still drive by the old house sometimes. A new family lives there now. Kids ride bikes in the driveway. A Labrador barks at squirrels in the yard. It doesn't feel like our house anymore. And that's okay, because home isn't a building. It's the people you protect, the love you nurture, and the peace you fight to keep intact. Even if it means walking away from everything you once tried to save. And me? I finally stopped being their burden-bearing son and became the father Lily deserved. That's a legacy I can live with.